It's 22 February. It's Sunday. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is the CG Prophecy Report. Oh, snap! That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. All right, we got some, before I give the news from Israel, we got some friends that come year after year, and they didn't come last year because he got a knee replacement. And it hasn't been the best knee replacement on the planet, but there's about 15 people in here that also had knee replacements that didn't have the best knee replacement on the planet. So, it's everybody that I know. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but everybody I know that has had a knee replacement has said they wouldn't do it again. And I've always, I've shoulder, okay, I've hips replaced, okay, but the knees are always not working out. And I hate to tell people to have the knee replacements, but I read an article, I think I read it on a prophecy report once, is that they actually have competitions, who can do it the fastest. And they get in there, they cut it, they put it in, and 10 minutes and 13 seconds. And they have competitions. That's not a good way to have your knee replaced. I've always said if my knee goes bad, I'm just going to have it taken off right at knee level, and I'm going to get a stump. Peg leg, so that I've already got the headband, I've got the silver tooth, and then punch out my left eye and, get a bird. Yeah, but anyway, we're so glad to have you guys here. They're all the way down from, guess where? Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yeah. So anyway, good to have you all here again, and I hope you get back safely, and it's a safe year for you. Yeah, I just can't even imagine. Okay, we got some news from Israel. Zero hedge. Israel spends by far the most per capita on defense. You would think America, but we're not even close. Now, we're obviously by far the most, but not per capita. Global military spending is often measured in massive national budgets, where the United States and China dominate the conversation. But looking at defense spending on a per-person basis tells a very different story, one where smaller countries rise to the top. Israel ranks first, nearly $5,000 per person on defense in 2024. This figure reflects the country's ongoing security challenges and mandatory military service. Despite a total defense budget of $47 billion, small compared to global superpowers, the per-person cost is unmatched. Israel's number one, $47 billion at $4,989. I'm only going to give you a couple of them. I just picked arbitrary out of this long list. Number two is the U.S., $997 billion this is 2024 numbers. We're going over $1 trillion this year, but we're at $28.95 per person. Three is Singapore, $15 billion at $25.91 per person. 4 is Saudi Arabia at $80 billion. That's $2,386 per person. Number 12 is the UK, $82 billion, and they only spend $1,186. You can have dinner for more than that. 14 is Germany at $88 billion. They're only spending $1,044. 24 is Japan, and $55 billion, only $446. We should move to Japan. I got my wife there. She could take care of me in Japan. So $446. 30 is Indonesia at $11 billion, and they only pay $39 a person because they got lots of Indonesians. There are lots of them. Okay, there you go. A little fun. Times of Israel eyeing future missile threats. Israel successfully completes complex David Sling tests. Now, we talked about David Sling at least 3 times in the past couple months, but they have successful tests for a new part of their program. As part of upgrading readiness for future threats, the Defense Ministry said it successfully completed a series of complex tests with David's Sling medium-range air defense system. David Sling, produced by defense firm Rafael, is designed to intercept rockets, missiles, cruise missiles, aircraft, and UAVs at ranges of 40 to 300 kilometers. The Defense Ministry said the series of drills was based on operational lessons learned from the 12-day war with Iran in June 2025 and included a range of challenging scenarios in line with existing and evolving threats. The success of the tests constitutes an additional technological and operational breakthrough and upgrading the system, which demonstrated high-performance capabilities during the war with successful interceptions that saved lives and prevented significant damage. Upgrading the David Sling relieves pressure on the Arrow 3 defense system to face long-range ballistic missiles. While each David Sling missile costs roughly only $1 million to use, the Arrow 3 system can cost Israel over $2.5 million per use. While not designed to intercept long-range ballistic missiles, the David Sling was deployed during June's war with Iran, successfully shooting down several projectiles launched from 1,500 kilometers away. Previously, David Sling had only been used against medium-range rockets fired by Hamas and Hezbollah from the Gaza Strip and Lebanon. And from the Times of Israel, IDF dismisses, I always put this in, when Israel does wrong, they take care of the wrongdoing, all right? When Hamas does wrong, which is their existence is to do wrong, they promote people and they congratulate them and they make them heroes. From the Times of Israel, IDF dismisses soldiers filmed beating detained Palestinian in West Bank. They had him detained, he was handcuffed, and they just beat him up. So, unlike other militaries around the world, there are consequences in the U.S. military and in the Israeli military. The IDF said it had dismissed 2 soldiers from combat roles after they were filmed beating a detained Palestinian man in the West Bank last week. Footage published by Palestinian media showed the soldiers hitting and kicking the detained man. Tamimi appeared to be handcuffed in the video. The military said that following an investigation by the troops' commanders, the soldiers involved in the incident were removed from combat duties, as they should be. Got some news from Christianity. From the Christian Post, top court to hear cases against Turkey labeling Christians a security threat. Now, I usually don't have a problem with this. I just don't, because that's their country and they have a right to keep people out if they want, but it gets people upset and whatever. I mean, our president has pretty much banned everybody in the world from coming to America right now. It's his choice. But anyway, I'll read it to you. The European Court of Human Rights has opened proceedings in 20 cases involving Christians barred from re-entering Turkey after being designated as national security threats. Well, this is the problem. They're not really national security threats, but it's their country. The individuals, mostly foreign residents, say they were denied entry or residence solely for peacefully practicing their faith. The Turkish government has used internal codes like N82 and G87 to issue entry bans or deny permit renewals to at least 160 foreign nationals, Christians, since 2019. Most affected individuals had no criminal record or history of unlawful activity. In multiple instances, the only common link was public involvement in Christian worship or ministry, including pastors, teachers, and missionaries. You know what? In England, all you have to do is go out on the streets and talk about Jesus, and you're going to get arrested. So this article is kind of... But peaceful worship and participation in church life are not threats to national security, said Lydia Ryder, legal officer for the ADF International. David Bile, a Christian minister who lived in Turkey for 19 years, was among those forced to leave after being marked with a code. Others include Pam and David Wilson, who served in the country for nearly 4 decades, and a couple identified as Rachel and Mario Zalma, who received an N82 designation after attending a church conference. Foreign Christians from countries including the U.S., the U.K., Germany, South Korea, Latin America, and other parts of Europe have been denied visas or deported in recent years. Many had lived in Turkey with their families for extended periods and had no criminal record or pending legal cases. The 2024 Human Rights Violation Report by the Association of Protestant Churches documented 132 people arbitrarily branded with entry ban codes solely because of their Christian faith. The report put the total number affected at 303. So there you go. But once again, I'm not opposed to that. And you can't even get into North Korea if you say anything wrong. Remember that one kid that went over there and he laughed at a picture of Kim Jong-un, and they put him in prison and they beat him to death. I mean, he was on the plane flying back here because Trump got him out of there and he died. So, I mean, all Israel. Okay, you probably know about this, but I'm going to read it anyway. First, I'm going to give you a first article to set it up and then a second article to show how it panned out. All Israel, Tucker Carlson to visit Israel after officials weigh banning his entry over anti-Israel activism. So he wanted to go to Israel, and they thought maybe we should ban him. Israel considered barring former Fox News anchor turned Israel critic Tucker Carlson from entering the country due to his controversial rhetoric, but ultimately decided against the move to avoid a diplomatic incident. American diplomats confirmed that Carlson, currently in Jordan, this was before he went to Israel, is expected to travel to Israel afterward, though the date of his arrival is unclear. He described his trip to the Holy Land as a quest for the truth about the condition of the local Christian population. In Israel, they're not thriving. Their numbers are not growing, they are shrinking, he said in a video release that focused on attacking Israel for its alleged mistreatment of Christians, featuring Jerusalem's Episcopal Archbishop Hussam Naum. Despite a declining share of the overall population, Israel's Christian population has grown in absolute terms by 7% annually since then, rising from 180,300 in 2023 to 184,200 in 2024. Before I go on, it's a Jewish state. Any Jew in the world that wants to go there can go there, so their population is increasing by Jews, and if the number of Christians is going down proportionately, it's because they're having less children than Jews moving into the country. So there was nothing wrong with that, and Tucker Carlson is blowing smoke. According to the Association of Religion Data Archives, the percentage of Christians in Israel declined from 2.4 to 1.9% between 2000 and 2025. In Jordan, the decline over the same period was steeper, as the percentage of Christians more than halved from 2.6% to 1.1%. In the interview, Carlson, of course he did not address the shrinking population of Christians in Jordan or the broader region. So it's a totally hypocritical stand that the guy has. New York Post, Tucker Carlson claims he was detained in Israel airport, but ambassador says it was just routine customs check. Carlson, a vocal critic of U.S.-Israel policy who has been accused of using anti-Semitic language, has traveled to Israel to interview Huckabee, but refused to leave the Ben Gurion airport complex. Men who identified themselves as airport security took our passports, hauled our executive producer into a side room, and then demanded to know what we spoke to Ambassador Huckabee about. It was bizarre. We're now out of the country. Huckabee rejected Carlson's claims and wrote that everyone who comes in and out of Israel, every country for that matter, has passports checked and routinely asked security questions. I've gone there, and each time I've gone there, I have been put in the back room. I'm there in the back room, and I now have every single thing in my bag. Look at everything. They take everything apart. They even open things like beef jerky. I'm sure they keep it after they open it. Everything. And I had no problem with that. That's their country.
You look suspicious.
Okay. I know I do. I look suspicious. And I always they put a flower on there. They write a little flower on your passport if they want you watched. And so I'm flying over to Israel, and guess what is happening while I'm on the airplane? There's a guy standing there literally watching me the entire time, each time I've gone there. Standing there watching me. Some Mossad guy, and that's his job, and he's watching me because I look like a kind of guy I should be watched. I have no problem with that. Okay, we got...
Vietnam and Cambodia.
Hey.
It's blatant.
Hey, listen, it's just the way it is. I fit in everywhere except Israel. That's,
Yeah, you do.
I got some news from the Mideast and Africa today. From all Israel, World Health Organization data on polio vaccination program for children in Gaza challenges genocide claims. Newly released numbers confirm that a higher number of Gazan children under 10 were vaccinated against polio than the total number of children in that age group before the war, showing population increase, the opposite of what might be expected in a genocide. According to World Health Organization figures, nearly 603,000 Gazan children under 10 received the novel oral polio vaccine type 2 in a program, a statistic which has been picked up by those seeking to challenge claims that Israel's deliberately trying to kill Palestinian children. Children aged 10 in Gaza were under 600,000 pre-war, with about 50 to 60,000 births per year. The World Health Organization data also proves births during the war were similar or even higher than pre-war. Eisenberg pointed out that the coordination of the vaccine program itself was evidence that Israel wanted to help Gazan children rather than hurt them. Ask why Israel would allow mass life-saving vaccinations if genocide were the intent, insisting that offering free healthcare and vaccinations is not the typical behavior of a regime seeking to wipe out a people group. The vaccination program logged by the WHO on their public dashboard was conducted in 3 rounds, covering all 5 governorates of Gaza in an effort to prevent the spread of the disease. 2 previous rounds were conducted in September and October of 2024 after the virus had been detected in the Gaza Strip. If Hamas has Israeli children, they kill them. From all Israel, senior Iranian officials used diplomatic passports to smuggle suitcases of cash to Hezbollah. Iranian Foreign Minister Arghachi, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Ali Larijani, and 6 other Islamic Republic officials were reportedly involved in smuggling the cash into Lebanon. The reason why I'm reading this isn't that it's unusual or it doesn't happen all the time, but the fact is they can't afford anything in their country, and they're sending millions of dollars to other countries to blow up Israel. This is their problem. The regime officials used their diplomatic passports, which allowed them to avoid customs inspections. I've said this before. I had a black passport when I was in Malaysia, worked for the embassy. And I walked in and I'd hold it up and they couldn't ask you any questions. They couldn't look at your bags. They couldn't do anything. You just waved, they stamped your passport, and then you went. And if you didn't want to wave, you didn't have to. So this is the way that the law works. My interest is in what they are doing with this money instead of taking care of their own business in their own country. Iran International named 6 diplomats involved in the operation to transfer hundreds of millions of dollars in cash to Hezbollah. The news outlet published a photo from January 8th in which Taherian Fard can be seen traveling on a diplomatic flight to Beirut alongside Arghachi. He was carrying a suitcase full of dollars for Hezbollah. Confident that a diplomatic passport, no one would inspect his luggage. Taherian Fard, 70, previously served as Iran's ambassador to Turkey and held several senior diplomatic roles, including special assistant to then Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif and special envoy for Afghanistan affairs. Iran International also reported that during his trip to Lebanon in October, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's advisor, Larijani, took cases of cash to give to Hezbollah. At the time, a Lebanese newspaper reported that he was carrying $300 million in cash in his suitcases. Sources close to the Lebanese president denied the report, but an intelligence source in a European country told Iran International that the cash transfer did indeed take place. The transfer of large sums of cash comes as Hezbollah seeks to rebuild its military capabilities following devastating conflict with Israel in the latter half of 2024. I could have carried in $300 million and they couldn't have asked me a thing. Okay, I didn't. I only carried in $100 million at a time. But this is okay. It's what they're doing that is so annoying. That amount of money, and they have got a rial that isn't worth anything. It's not worth anything. Their people are suffering, and they're doing this kind of stuff. This is the Iran that we're dealing with in the world. Zero Hedge. German authorities discover massive fraud in naturalization language tests. Iraqi ringleader arrested. Happens everywhere, I guess. Yeah. Breitbart. This is good news. I saw another one just this morning where some of them have arrived. U.S. will send 200 troops to train Nigerian military. The Pentagon will send about 200 troops to Nigeria within the next few weeks. I think it was 100 that I saw this morning to train the Nigerian military in counterterrorism tactics. A small group of U.S. forces has already been in Nigeria since last month, helping local forces to pinpoint terrorist targets for counterterrorism operations. The impending deployment of 200 more American soldiers will help to expand that intelligence operation across the country, in addition to providing strategic and technical advice. So there you go with that. Finally, because Christians were being butchered over there for years and years and years. From Mongolia, from TTW, I read the same thing every single year. They just keep waiting and waiting. But this year, it seems like it's up a little bit. Mongolia is set to become a major tourist hub in 2026 as foreign visitor numbers jump by 33%. That means they have 107 people instead of 82, reflecting growing global interest. The surge in tourism is seen as a positive step for Mongolia as it works towards building a more sustainable and balanced economic future. The growth in international tourism is a sign that Mongolia is positioning itself as a top destination in Asia. That's where I want to go. It's the top thing on my list, yes. For those looking for something different from more traditional travel spots. As more people discover what Mongolia has to offer, like the worst pollution in the world, the country is quickly becoming a multi-visit destination for those looking to experience something truly unique. Now, that's only in Ulaanbaatar, but there aren't any other cities to speak of, and the rest of it's open plain. So if you want to take your guitar and sing on the Home on the Range, right, you'll be fine. Daniel 12 technology today from the Times of Israel. Israeli-founded SpaceX of Weather raises $175 million to send next-generation satellites into orbit. Billing itself as the SpaceX of Weather, Tomorrow IO's bold endeavor is to tackle the decades-old challenge of getting weather forecasts right, as extreme weather events are ranked as the top long-term risk. Formerly known as Climacell, Tomorrow IO was founded in 2016 by IAF veterans. The three founders teamed up to deploy weather forecasting intelligence software and observation solutions that go beyond traditional meteorological systems and rely on a patchwork of ground-based radars and stations. They soon realized that the availability and quality of existing public data to observe the planet are the main limiting factors for accurate weather forecasting, constraining emergency preparedness and disaster response. There are roughly 100 hurricanes or tropical cyclones a year, and we still have a hard time forecasting both their trajectory and intensity. If you look at why, in most cases, it was because of a pretty rapid change in the structure of a storm that was missed because of gaps in existing meteorological observation data. Our goal is to eliminate those gaps and provide governments and organizations with an infinitely better ability to anticipate those rapid changes so that they can take timely decisions about whether or not to evacuate a full district in Thailand because of 600 millimeters of rain in the next 24 hours. The lack of timely and dense data prompted the three founders to develop their own satellite technology to improve observations and measurements of the current state of the atmosphere, especially in undeserved regions such as India, the Philippines, and Africa. There are great advancements in AI-based weather forecasting models, but they are not useful if they rely on very limited amounts of data, driven by current observation and infrastructure. Our strategy has been to have data that have the highest impact on the forecasting models and are the most scarce today. So they should be, really blooming in that because it's needed. And as they said, they got places like the Philippines. We just saw our missionary over there get completely wiped out. And so if you can let people know in advance what's coming, real benefit. It's a dangerous world, including the inevitable plagues noted in the book of Revelation. From Just the News, new NIH chief says all gain-of-function research stopped. No lockdowns in the future. That's their plan. No more of that. Just the News, Patel says Biden-era FBI buried the truth about CCP's ties to biolab on U.S. soil. Just the News, House Intelligence Chairman warns China may be setting up illicit biolabs in the U.S. to seed the next pandemic. You think? They find that there and then they find more of them and you think maybe? From Fox, CDC issues urgent travel alert as virus outbreak hits exclusive Sunny Islands destination. If you were planning on going to the Seychelles this week, don't go. Morality. Breitbart, New Hampshire GOP governor vetoes bathroom bill aimed at protecting women's sports and spaces. Yeah, Yeah, the bill would have let schools, prisons, and businesses bar transgender identifying people from using restrooms, locker rooms, and other sex-specific spaces that are different from their biological sex. The bill would have applied to sports teams as well as would have specifically created exceptions to the state's anti-discrimination law. And a supposed GOP governor nixed it. Just the news. California defends gender secrecy policies before Supreme Court, calls injunction extreme. They're defending this. Nothing. I read the news and I try to read it objectively. Every single day I look at all of the articles and I have not seen anything, not one thing in months that makes sense out of the left. Other than that guy from Pennsylvania, he ought to be a Republican, Fetterman. Other than him, I have not seen anything that they do that is of any moral value at all. It is all damaging. Everything they do. Breitbart, HHS refers John Hopkins for investigation over sex change drugs for minors. Gateway Pundit, Hochul signs Medical Aid in Dying Act, bringing euthanasia and assisted suicide to New York State. They've fallen one after another. Gateway Pundit, Georgia. Veteran police officer fired after telling biological male to stay out of a woman's bathroom. They fired the officer.
Wow.
Breitbart. High school wrestler says she was, and I don't even want to say, something happened to her. Imagine what a guy that is wrestling with a girl because he says he's a girl, imagine what he would do maybe with his fingers. I won't say any more than that. New York Times. And now he's in trouble. I hope they prosecute him, and I hope he goes to prison for a long, long time. New York Times, pride flag is removed from Stonewall Monument after Trump directive. Stonewall Monument is federally funded or whatever. It's the first place where LGBTQ came about, where the big flag was put up. And because it's federal, Trump banned the flag. Yay. From the Post-Millennial. Canadian doctors push for babies to be euthanized under MAID program, the euthanasia program. The Quebec College of Physicians said medical assistance in dying may be appropriate treatment for babies suffering from extreme pain. Guess what that means? Anything is extreme pain. Anything. Mother will not treat the baby well. That's extreme pain. Kill it. Mark my words, this is coming. KFF Health. American Academy of Pediatrics under investigation over trans youth care. They should be closed down. There is nothing good coming out of the AAP ever. They're just degenerates. Breitbart. Canadian police refer to biologically male school shooter as they. The kid that shot the other kids and they. The Post-Millennial. Disney Pride event Gay Days is on pause for 2026 after loss of sponsorship support.
Oh, good.
Fox. Puerto Rico governor signs law recognizing unborn babies as human beings.
Wow.
Got some other news here. WhiteHouse.gov. President Donald J. Trump unleashes commercial fishing in the Atlantic. Remember, Biden shut off the whole thing up there. Because they hate this nation. They hate it. They want to do everything they can to damage this nation. The proclamation restores commercial fishing access to all 4,913 square miles of the Northeast Canyons and Seamounts Marine National Monument located off the coast of New England. The Northeast Canyons and Seamounts Marine National Monument, established by Obama in 2016, prohibited commercial fishing within its boundaries. In his first term, President Trump lifted these restrictions to unlock economic opportunities for American fishermen. In 2021, Biden reinstated the Obama-era prohibitions on commercial fishing within the monument. Prohibiting commercial fishing is not necessary for the proper care and management of the monument, as many fish species are highly migratory, not unique to the area, and are already protected through existing laws. They have laws to protect the ones that need to be protected. If you catch it, you got to put it back. By revoking the Obama-Biden restrictions, President Trump's proclamation supports New England's fishing communities, in turn fostering economic growth and job creation in the coastal regions. Gateway Pundit. Canadian gun buyback program is voluntary. But Non-compliance can land you in jail. It's typical liberal speak. Canada's federal gun buyback program, officially known as the Assault-Style Firearms Compensation Program, is in a high-stakes rollout phase. As of early 2026, the ban targets firearms such as the AR-15, Ruger Mini-14, M14, and various modern semi-automatic rifles. It also includes the so-called heavy firearms with a bore diameter of 20 millimeter or greater, or muzzle energy exceeding 10,000 joules. The law also relies on a capable clause defining prohibition based on whether a firearm is capable of discharging a projectile exceeding 10,000 joules. So even if it doesn't, if it's capable of it, banned. This has drawn criticism because some rifles may remain under the limit with shorter barrels or lighter loads, but are physically capable of firing higher pressure rounds that cross the threshold. The government claims participation in the buyback is voluntary, but compliance with the law is mandatory. Owners may choose whether to accept compensation, but declining payment does not allow them to keep prohibited firearms. Those who refuse compensation must surrender their firearms without payment, export them, or have them permanently deactivated at their own expense. Anyone who continues to possess a prohibited firearm under the amnesty expires will be in legal possession of a prohibited firearm. Under the Canadian Criminal Code, CCC, this offense can carry a prison sentence of up to 10 years. Opposition to the program is widespread, especially in Western Canada and rural regions. This is great news because it's one more reason for Alberta to say, we want to be aligned with Trump. One more reason. Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland and Labrador have rejected the program outright or refused to assist with enforcement, citing jurisdictional limits and opposition to using provincial police or funding for what critics describe as federal administrative scheme. So they're not going to participate, and this may help Trump get what he wants out of Alberta. Zero Hedge. Russia accused of intercepting, shadowing European satellites for signals intelligence. Two Russian satellites, the Luck 1 and Luck 2, it's Luch, but I'm assuming it's Luck, repeatedly approached European comm satellites and could intercept information from at least 10 key geostationary satellites located over Europe. The Russian craft are said to linger near their targets for weeks at a time, with Luck 2 in particular being known to have approached at least 17 satellites. So it's doing something. In the background, there are fears that Ukraine and its European backers are far outmatched by Russia's space capabilities. One publication called this a wake-up call. Russia, they found, could draw on a fleet of roughly 200 satellites with military utility. Ukraine had one. The disparity underlined not only Kiev's vulnerability in the early stages of the war, but a broader strategic gap that now occupies European policymakers in modern conflict. Space-based intelligence isn't a luxury, but a prerequisite for survival. From Fox. Good news. Florida driver's license tests. Florida, not CDL. We're talking Florida. Now only given in English. Previously known exams for most non-commercial driver license classifications were offered in multiple languages, while CLP and CDL knowledge exams were only available in English and Spanish. Under the updated policy, all driver license knowledge and skills testing will be conducted in English. Only English. Language translation services will no longer be permitted for knowledge or skills examinations, and any printed exams in languages other than English will be removed for use. We've got a giant Hispanic population in Florida. They're great workers, wonderful people, many of them, but if they don't speak English, they need to learn this language and participate in this government. Guardian. Global economy must move past GDP to avoid planetary disaster. The global economy must be radically transformed to stop it rewarding pollution and wastes, Guterres has warned. Guterres said humanity's future required the urgent overhaul of the world's existing accounting systems. He said we're driving the planet to the brink of disaster. we must place true value on the environment and go beyond GDP as a measure of human progress and well-being. Let us not forget that when we destroy a forest, we are creating GDP. When we overfish, we are creating GDP. Critics argue that endless, indiscriminate growth on a planet with finite resources is driving not only the climate and nature crisis, but increasing inequality. GDP is increasing inequality. Moving beyond GDP is about measuring the things that really matter to people and their communities. GDP tells us the cost of everything and the value of nothing. Our world is not a gigantic corporation. Financial decisions should be based on more of a snapshot of profit and loss. Okay, they want to save the planet. What they need to do is have the people in the third world countries, because I've reported on this many times, take their garbage and put it in garbage cans and drive it to a landfill and bury it or do whatever you're going to do with it, recycle it or burn it or whatever. The Chinese are the ones that rape the fisheries around the world. Okay, what country, I reported on this a year and a half ago, so somebody will remember this. What country on the planet has the largest pollution of plastic of any country on the planet?
India?
China.
Philippines. The Philippines. Right in the river, right out to the ocean. Okay. The problem is not GDP. The problem is people not being responsible with their lives. Okay. They come to this country, they see how we live, and then they go back and they throw their stuff all over the place. All they have to do is say, they got a great system over there. They take their garbage and they get it taken care of. But they don't do that. So worrying about things like, I could go through the whole article and blow away every one of the guy's arguments, but it's insane. Zero hedge. When government subsidies stopped, Doritos got 15% cheaper. Did you know that? Just a couple weeks ago when the subsidy stopped? Yeah. PepsiCo spent $2.8 million last year lobbying to keep junk food eligible for food stamps. They lobbied so that you could buy that, right? $2.8 million is a lot of Doritos. But after HHS Secretary Kennedy got 18 states to ban SNAP, purchases of products like candy, soda, and processed snacks, PepsiCo announced price cuts of up to 15% on Doritos, Lay's, Tostitos, and other Frito-Lay products. So when the government stopped subsidizing demand for their products, PepsiCo had to do something they hadn't needed to do in years: compete. This is what the free market does. It forces companies to be more efficient, cut prices, and pass savings on to their customers, not at our expense. If they want to buy it, they can go use their own money and buy the Doritos. They don't need government money to buy their Doritos. It works. From FMCSA, Trump's transportation secretary, Sean P. Duffy, puts safety first, finalizes rule to stop unqualified foreign drivers from driving big rigs on American roadways. Daily Express, Trump says he raised tariffs on Switzerland. It's a moot point now, but it's so funny, I thought that I would read it anyway. Raised tariffs on Switzerland because he didn't like the way they talked. I love the guy. He's the president of the United States. You come in and you're arrogant with him, he's going to make you eat your words. Zero hedge. LA taxpayers spent $418 million. LA, the city of LA, $418 million on homeless programs in 2025. $500 million on something that has not worked at all there for decades. And they take $500 million and they throw it away. Zero hedge. Feds have charged 158 anti-ICE agitators with federal crimes in Minnesota. 158 people now going to Dapokey. The Post-Millennial. Brandon Johnson admits, I'm sure this just destroyed him when they asked him, he admits that Chicago saw a 30% drop in homicides after Trump crime crackdown. WGN-TV. Judge blocks California's ban on federal agents wearing masks but requires badges to be clearly seen. I read the great article on exactly that. It's good that they said, they don't have to wear masks. That's nonsense. But the article said that Pam Bondi should challenge that because the way that the judge passed it only is because they don't require the same standard for their police officers. And so they said, that's unfair. You're demanding that the federal people come in and they have to show their faces, but you don't say that with your police officers. By challenging that, it can be standardized throughout the country. Otherwise, it's just a law that can be overthrown somewhere else or at some other time. So we'll see where that goes. Breitbart, over half of immigrant households are on welfare, far surpassing American households. Half. Breitbart, Trump administration has uncovered immigration fraud in 65% of cases investigated by the USCIS thus far. 65% immigration fraud. Zero Hedge, Florida to make gold and silver official means of payment. This is like the fourth state now that has this, maybe fifth. So good stuff. All right, who said it? A gentleman is one who never hurts anyone's feelings unintentionally. It wasn't you. No. Oscar Wilde. Okay, I got a Lesrick here for you. Let's see if you can figure out what he's talking about. No more Frito Bandito for us. HHS threw him under the bus. Though he might sport a frown because his income is down, for those not using SNAP, it's a plus. No more Frito Bandito for us. Okay, got an irony here. Actually, I got two. Let's see. Yeah, we've seen this elsewhere, but you think that they would check these things. New York Post, ICE nabs illegal immigrant New Orleans police recruit who was issued a firearm. Okay, and then we see this kind of thing all the time. I saw another one just yesterday. Breitbart, Senator Ossoff to require ID at campaign rally while he fights ID requirements to vote.
Voting, yes.
Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.